Hello and welcome back to the High Performance Consciousness Podcast. My name is Matthew Patti, and again, I will be your host for today's episode, which is co-created with the incredible Peter Clark Nelson, incredible friend and leader in the field of human potential and unity consciousness. You will find more information on Peter and his new great work all around the New Earth Leaders, New Earth Investments, and his new podcast. So make sure you check him out. All right. So enjoy this episode. As I alluded to in episode 76, that this closes out season 1 of the High Performance Consciousness podcast. I hope you've enjoyed all 77 episodes. I've given myself to them, and I know that you have as well. And they are timeless principles shared in each and every one of the episodes so that you can return to them and reinvest your energy and attention to go deeper into each and every topic I speak about so that you can master any and all areas of your life and live the life you desire right now. So enjoy part 2 as we close out this interview between Peter Clark Nelson and myself, discussing the rise and return of the mystic and the scissor of dimensions.
And so let's talk a bit about responsibility and how you perceive that in the role of being a mystic.
Another voluminous text there, the works of goodness. Let me frame it first by what some of my clients refer to as the Patti Pyramid. So quite funny, actually. But so the Patti Pyramid is 4 levels, and you made mention of it twice before, or 2 parts of that. So at the base of the pyramid, there is life happens to me. So typically is conscious or unconscious victim consciousness. So consciously or unconsciously, we are at the mercy of the world. So people, places, circumstances, events and circumstances. So time operates very slow and very linear down there. And I say down there, but at that level. So let's call that level 1. Life happens to me. The next levels we start to awaken, we can start to sort of think, okay, life is happening for me. There are lessons here. There are repeating patterns in my reality or in my life. You know, whether it's always getting low, letting go of the same of jobs, or whether it's relationships not working out or attracting the same types of people, or whether it's income or health conditions, whatever it may be. So life happens for me to wake up and to become aware and say, okay, there's something here that I can learn from. And you can surrender to that and say, well, I have no control. I'm a fatalist. What will be, will be. And I will just learn to accept that which is presented to me. And if you can come to peace and terms and balance and harmony with that, then that's no problem. There is a religious element to that, which is you must bear witness to your own pain, your own suffering. And so if life is happening for me, I need to find the good in the bad. It's like finding a needle in a haystack sometimes. But as the mystic, as we arise, as our consciousness rises, as we step more into our true divine nature, and we awaken this cerebral spinal fluid within us, our physical body, and we rise, push it up through the spinal column and into the caput, we become illuminated. And the next phase, so you got 1, 2, 3, is life happens by me. And life happens by me, you start to sort of think, okay, I have a different level of responsibility here. So now I am in a greater state, a greater awareness of my own governance. So if I understand that everything is energy and that all life is balanced, even though I may only perceive it through my distorted lens or through my polarized lens, that I'm broken at the moment and I seek wholeness, or I'm in joy and celebration and someone else is suffering. Life happens by me is a direct reflection of the state of consciousness that you are exuding, expressing as a magnet. So at that level, the personal accountability and responsibility is then such that as you lean into that, if life happens by me, then I am the governing power here. So if I don't like something, then I can redirect my focus using my will, and I can intentionalize a new outcome for myself and for others. So But there still resides within that level is that human element of control. So I have a desire and I seek to experience that desire or the fulfillment of that desire or need. But I understand now that life happens by me. So I cannot give my responsibility or assume the responsibility lies with another. The true catapult, the true element of pinnacle self-realization, whether it's Maslow or anyone else referencing it, is life happens through me. That's the capstone. So life happens through me because I am the universe. I am all of life expressing itself in a single defined point of awareness right now. And so time takes on a slightly different construct as you go from level 1 to level 4, or you could call them realms, you could call them, level bandwidths of consciousness. So at the level of life happens through me, I know that I am responsible for the energy that I am cultivating and expressing in the world. So am I sending out, crappy signals, negative thoughts, negative feelings, shadowy behavior, whatever it may be? Because I understand that which moves through me is also returned to me. So if I am the universe and I am in communion with all that is, because everything is connected, and the key point for each of those levels is the imagination. So the imagination at the capstone at level 4, as life happens through me, my imagination expands into the unknown. And I become less of the known self and more of the unknown potential that truly exists as my true self. So therefore I'm more open and transparent with the universe or life itself, and can lean in and out of both polarities without judgment. So I'm moving from a polarized base into a unified apex. And that's where I become whole. And that's where I realize that I am connected and that I am not separate.
Wow. Thank you so much for just detailing that. And Patti's Pyramid. It's now, going to be in everybody's awareness that there's not just the Great Pyramid or thousands of other pyramids around the world. There is Patti's Pyramid, and it, may sound a little strange to some people, but what Matthew just described with Patti's Pyramid is actually the very essence of what the Great Pyramids in Egypt were built through and by. Mm-hmm. That is exactly how did they build it? Go back and re-listen to that segment of this episode, and you'll get the understanding of how all of these seemingly unexplainable, monolithic, highly technologically advanced pyramids and other structures around the world were built. That's it. Mm-hmm. It is not from a place of trying to survive. It's from a place of thriving, and not thriving at the expense of another human being or another life force. It is working in harmony with your true divine essence. And when you are operating and creating from that, what do you think you're attracting? What do you think you are projecting outward? And what do you see reflected back to you? So I know this is a lot to cover in a single episode on a podcast. And as Matthew, you've kind of joked before, there's some large topics that require deep level exploration of that takes time, and it takes a process. And, I know I'm sure a lot of people that are journeying with us, if I would encourage you to go back and re-listen to the episode again, but I also would highly invite you and encourage you to take a little bit of downtime. I personally take a lot of downtime and allow the essence and the vibration of what Matthew's been sharing here to percolate. Let it integrate. Again, tap into your curiosity once you let it come inside, let it sort of sit, and then go explore some of these topics on your own. And speaking of topics, there's two I want to wrap things up with, but I want to circle back to something you said just a little while ago. You referenced Dr. Joe Dispenza, and I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with Dr. Joe. My son, Austin Alchemy, he's been really just talking to me for quite a while about Dr. Joe's work. I know you have. I've looked into it as well, but recently he had made sure that I got his book, Becoming Supernatural. So for those of you who want to take a little bit of a deeper dive into some of these topics, Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza is a groundbreaking book that reveals not just what I feel are true leading edge mystics and alchemists, they'll call themselves scientists, what they're doing and how it applies to everyday life. So the two topics, I want to just touch on something real briefly here because it's another big one, but I would be remiss if I don't bring this up, because when you and I were chatting a few weeks ago, we wanted to sort of at least frame the episode around this. And it is a term that you began talking about called the scissors of dimensions. And I want you just to share a little bit about how you describe the scissors of dimensions and what role that plays in mysticism.
Yeah, well, another huge conversation there to be had. So that's actually your term, a brilliant scriptwriter term and title there, the scissors of dimensions.
I know it was the conversation you and I were having, and you said something about you were looking through what you thought were like doorways or something, and yeah, it's an incredible topic. So let's blow some more minds with that.
Well, let's think of it this way. Think about the indigenous tribes all around the planet, and the original people of the land. They know where the doorways are, and their shamans, their mystics, their medicine men or women, whatever it may be, the terms that they use, they knew that there are certain places at certain times where portals, or let's call them curtains, dimensional curtains, existed, where they could walk behind this curtain or walk through this veil and transcend territory, meet across vast distances at specific locations at a certain time with other tribe members for meetings. So it came up in our conversation because part of my daily routine is to take, invest at least an hour, sometimes 90 minutes, but at least an hour to visualize and to imagine. And I just lie reclined on my bed or on my couch, and I don't listen to any music as such, but I just allow my body to relax and my nervous system to go offline. And my nervous system calms down, and I go from a beta brainwave state down into alpha, potentially into theta, where I'm just not consciously aware of my body, but I'm lucid. And in that place, I do my imagination. In that place, I do what I call with my clients, my dream life rehearsal. I just rehearse it and I feel it. And quite often when I move through that doorway of alpha down into theta, then I will start seeing different sorts of scenes, different types of realities. And in this one particular scene, I was in a very specific room, just a white room. It was, with other people. It was like an office building or whatever it may have been. But the join between the two panels of the wall caught my attention. This is the key point. This is to pay attention to that is the mystic. So the mystic is curious, as you said before. The mystic notices things out of the corner of their eye. There's a glitch, or there's some sort of glimpse of something. And it just took an interest, and I just turned my head to one side in this scene, and I could see through the scissor of dimensions. So it was like, it looked solid. It looked like two panels of one wall that were joined together, and yet something different. There was an anomaly there. And so as I looked to the right, or to my left, sorry, and I looked through it, I could see on the other side that it was almost like a Tron reality, very, neon lights, there are lots of blues and purples and pinks. And the curiosity was calling me in, saying, you can go through that. But part of my humanness was saying, well, sure, I'll go through it, but am I sure that I can come back out? So the scissor of dimensions, they exist in our consciousness, and they exist in our true, you could say, multidimensional aspect of ourself, but our true mystical self will find scissors of dimensions in many, many places. It could be holy places, it could be sacred places, which typically are holy places placed on top of sacred places because they're power grids and or points of power and nodal points. But it's you opening yourself up to this reality is but a fraction of what exists. And it relates back to the light spectrum. So scissor of dimensions is essentially saying that many dimensions exist simultaneously right now, whether you conceive of them, believe of them or not. And so you only need to turn your head metaphorically to the side through curiosity and ask the question, I wonder what else exists right now, for you to be drawn into that Alice in Wonderland tapestry, as it were. So it is a real thing. They do exist. And you may call them electromagnetic anomalies. And you can use certain gadgets or technology to pick up some of these anomalies and where they exist. But they are an opportunity for us to experience the many selves that we call self. So there are the thousand eyes. We have many identities. We have many lives, many masters, many experiences that we can draw on right now. So whatever you are wanting to experience in your life, let's say it's more peace and harmony, and you think, I'm just drawn to nature, go to nature, because there is a language that nature is encoded with, that you too are encoded with. And so you are being called to that as a top-up mechanism. That's another part of scissor of dimensions. So you are going from one experience to another experience. And you may say that it is a linear, I'm driving 20 minutes west from where I live into the forest or into the mountains, wherever it is. You say, I've traveled through time by traveling to get there. But in reality, you have already been there, which is why you are called there, which is why you are harmonized to that. There's a resonant frequency within you, and the antenna around, or the cilia around your cells are picking up the encoding of those new realities. So when you go into nature, you are expressing a dimensional self that is kept hidden or occluded or occulted from your five senses when you remain stuck in the world of matter, meaning in the world of business or in the world of your home or in the world of job or family or whatever it may be. So I'm not sure whether that made any sense at all. It was English, but it may not have come across sensical at all. Yeah.
Well, I think it's a brilliant, very down-to-earth and practical explanation of something that a lot of people have tried to explain and go on a meandering journey, where it makes very little sense. One of the things I really want to touch on with that is your example of what you do on a day-to-day basis. Now, I know a lot of you who are listening to this, or perhaps you're watching the video of it, and you're like, yeah, I've tried this whole visualization thing. I've gone on visualization retreats. I've got a visualization app. I've got books on visualization. Shit just doesn't work for me because I can't slow down my mind. I can't take an hour and a half. Well, that's, all of these things about why it can't work. Right there, in that moment of that conversation, is the power that you're denying exists. You are literally creating dimensional realities based upon programs, beliefs, and ideologies that you are convinced is true. Therefore, it is true. Now, I'm not saying that you may not be able to take an hour and a half to 2 hours or whatever every day, okay? But you can make the time by creating the opportunity. If the desire is strong enough, then it is impossible for anything or anyone to get in the way of it, even your day-to-day responsibilities. So part of visualization isn't some gimmick. It's the doorway to the life that your heart is taking you in the direction of. So the question is, are you allowing your heart to lead, or are you digging in your heels and resisting? It's a very simple question. And if you feel pain and you're constantly experiencing various levels of emotional trauma, that's likely, even though there's maybe a myriad of different surface reasons for it, but the real reason, because your heart, your higher self is guiding you into a higher dimensional, more fulfilling reality, and your programs that have essentially run the show in your life are doing their best to keep you stuck in the reality that you want to get out of. Well, think about that. There's a part of you going in one direction, another part of you that's going in the opposite direction. You don't think that's going to be painful? So part of slowing things down and creating opportunities to hear and listen to the inner voice beyond the incessant chatter of a fearful voice, and to be able to take time out of the day-to-day routine, what you're doing is you're creating an opportunity to ease the tension. And then you can begin to create by hearing and feeling into the scissors of dimensions. You begin to see other opportunities. And as Matthew was saying, if you're called to go to nature, then go be in nature. If you're called to whatever it might be, go do that, if it's in resonance with your heart and soul. And part of the whole essence of this podcast series, and really the foundational element of what Matthew's talking about with being a mystic and mysticism, is being in conscious alignment with the divine creative life force energy that flows into and through all of life. It's being in real harmony. It's being able to be a true conscious master chooser of what it is you want to feel, what it is you want to create, who you want to be around. And no one can tell you what that is except you. And so there's a lot of layers of programs and misinformation and distortion that has been fed into our collective psyche. So when we take that time to step back, when you take, for example, you take time to journey with Matthew and myself, or, on this podcast, or another guest, that's you choosing to take yourself into a higher dimensional realm. That's you being willing to open up your mind and open up your heart and to consume higher vibrational energy that is going to make your heart sing. So with that said, the last topic I wanted to touch on, because I know we're wrapping up here, is the reason I wanted to ask about the Scissors of Dimensions and then this topic, because when this episode is airing right now, Matthew, you're in Australia. So when this episode airs, you're going to be here in North America. And this journey, during the time in which we're living in, you saw this happening. And you looked at what you've referred, and you've taught me, because you've been a mentor to me on many, many things. And you talked about this point of light into the future. And you looked into one of the Scissors of Dimensions. You saw a different dimensional reality that required you to be in North America, because you've got some things that are unfolding. So as we wrap up this particular episode, share a little bit about what you have in your current reality that you've co-created with others in your own higher self. And where can people learn more about some of the events and the things that are going to be unfolding in the coming months?
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Peter. Yeah, it's pretty incredible. I think having these conversations develops our own personal mysticism even more. So the more we can have these conversations, the better. The deeper you can go down rabbit holes and explore with curious and open hearts and eyes and hands and minds, the better. So yeah, it's in Australia right now. In North America, by the time it airs, the whole concept around, just quickly around the point of light is essentially that what is it that I feel called or led to experience? So some may say that it's like a desire. Some may say that it's like a burning impulse. Some may say that it's just an intuitive hunch or it's a gut feeling. So that is an impulse from the field to say, we're ringing your phone. Are you picking up? Now you may pick up the first time as Neo did and go, there's no one there. I'm just hearing silence or a dial tone or static or whatever it is. So the more that you start to listen to those little signposts and signals within your body and notice the little signposts around you, then you can start to think, well, let's create a point of light. So now I'm saying, here is the trip that I want to take. It is the longest on the ground tour I've done through North America. It's going to be 4.5 months long. Now, given all the current situation of around the planet, the last 12 to 18 months or more, and then you start to think, well, why would you do that? And what are the obstacles that are going to come up along the way? And what about this? And what about that? And what about this? This is the power of the point of light. The point of light is when you make a decision on a destination, which is an experience you want to cultivate within the self first, using your imagination and using the body of, let's call it the body of belief. Say, I want that. I'm being led to that. I want to experience that. Now, what does it feel like? So I'm building an energy and a strength in that point of light, which is a destination, some time in the future. Now, I started to play with it and think, well, okay, would it be October? Maybe. And then I got little signposts and I thought, it's just not lining up. That didn't work, or that doesn't fit, or whatever it is. Then I brought it forward to June or July. And I thought, can I sit here where I am, exploring the world the way that I do, working with clients the way that I do, until June or July? It's April right now. No, I cannot. So there's this urgency, not this rush, there's an urgency. Also, it feels like impatience. It also feels like, no, your foot is now glued to the accelerator. You must see this through. And so for others that may just see the world through linear eyes, and that the two panels of the wall represent the wall, and the wall is, and that's all that exists, there is nothing more to it, then they would not look for ways to get off the island, because they haven't decided that this is the point of light, this is the experience they want. So I invest everything in the point of light. And like I said, I reduce it back to where it feels in concordance. It feels harmonic. It feels in alignment. Yes, now is the time. I'm not waiting. It's not later. It's now. And so now I think, okay, I go through the world of the linear logical world and think, what are all the things that I need to do in the world of matter in order to prepare for that? And so I start to stack everything that is required. So, I bought new suitcases that just so happened to be American Tourist brand suitcases. I knew that I had to apply for exemptions to leave Australia. People were saying, well, why would you do that with everything going on? And aren't you going to be that? No, I'm not entertaining anything else, because this is what is. And I gave myself to this. Did I have some fluctuating moments? Yes, I did. But I reminded myself in each of those, I thought, okay, no, this is what is. So you go through and you get your approval and you book your ticket, and then, and then you've got a 30-hour journey to get here, and then you've got a 4-month tour. You compartmentalize every single thing and say, that will take care of itself, provided I give attention and energy to it that is aligned with the point of light that I intend to experience. So now I'm giving everything to it. And back on the scissor of dimensions is essentially saying that being the longest time on the ground, since living in Bali and London and Frankfurt, but this is like, 5 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, this is the longest single period of being in another country. So it is going to feel like an entirely new dimension, because my normal tours are between 3 and 5 weeks long. So now I can feel this expansiveness that feels like a stir of excitement, maybe a little bit of nervousness, maybe a little bit of being unsure, because it literally is the unknown. It literally is the unknown. So there's this whole vast universe of potential. Now, if I've got a framework there of 4.5 months, how is it that I want to experience it? How would I like to experience that journey? I'd like to experience it with people. I'd like to gather people. I'd like to, choose experiences that support and nurture my highest values, which are to travel, teach, and connect. So that makes it so simple for my tour. And so when we think about our highest values and we live in accordance with our highest values, that's when the true mystic comes alive. So the theme of the tour is the infinity tour. So I always give everything a theme, because then I can enroll myself in the theme, and the tour becomes the embodiment and everything of that. And it's a reminder to myself to say, in times of trouble, in times of self-doubt or potential fear, if there's a little something that doesn't feel aligned or something broke along the way, like one of the plans, go to the theme. It's infinite, because you are in the unknown. Now, what do you decide to do with this moment, with this new information? And so I will be running events, a very long-winded sort of explanation here, but I will be running events on the ground, most probably Nashville, Sedona, maybe even in Colorado, maybe New Mexico, but there'll be a number of events for people to lean into, to gather, and to explore the rise of their own mystic and the return of their true self, and how they can relate it to their world and create and optimize their best reality, and best business. So the best place to go to is matthewpatty.com or matthewpatty.com/events. I'll be doing a lot of Facebook Lives on Facebook, on my personal page. So Matthew Christian Patty on Facebook there as well. That's how we can keep in touch with each other along the way.
Wow. Well, first of all, for everybody that's listening to this, we're going to provide details for where you can follow Matthew, because as he said, this epic infinity tour that he is embarking on, I've seen him take other events and tours and adventures, and he's always sharing deep insights and reflections on these tours. And it becomes not just, well, what's Matthew up to today? Where is he at? It's more of a global communal journey where he's inviting you to be a part of the experience and to glean the wisdom and the lessons that he's uncovering for himself. And it always ties back into, as he was saying earlier, the theme. So in the details on the podcast, there'll be links that you can find where you can go to find what Matthew's sharing on social media. And he just gave us Facebook address and of course the URL. If you're watching this on a video, we'll have a graphic up here at the conclusion that you can write down where to go find Matthew. So as we conclude this episode, I want to make a really distinct point. So all of the incredible multidimensional wisdom and information, Matthew, that you've been sharing, a lot of people that, depending on where they are on the Patti Pyramid, in other words, where you may personally see and feel yourself to be on the path of a embodied mystic or an embodied new earth leader, one can say, well, that all sounds really good. It's sort of theoretical, and I'm not really sure if it's practical. Whatever. What Matthew just detailed, and I'm really glad you went in the depth you did. What you just detailed is a recipe and a formula that I would invite everyone to go back and re-listen to that last part one more time when Matthew was discussing about the journey that he's on. Because as you can see, and I have personally witnessed this, Matthew's not teaching something from a theoretical level. Matthew's embodying it, and he's living it, and it's living him. And he lives to share what he embodies. And that really, at the end of the day, is what a mystic and a New Earth leader is. You don't have to understand all the multidimensional concepts. You don't have to, go on long meditations, none of that stuff. And in fact, for some people, they might not even be called to the spiritual element of it. However that may be, when you're living and embodying through your heart, you are showing up as a reflection to others that being at that level of awareness, it's not a luxury. It's an absolute necessity at this time, but it's also your divine inheritance. So Matthew, I want to just commend you, and I want to honor you and respect you for all that you are doing and the choices that you're guided to embrace and accept, and how you show up as an amazing, beautiful inspiration to others. So any last words you want to share before we conclude this episode?
Wow. Yeah. Thank you, Peter. Like it's like for like. So yeah, we'll be seeing each other on the ground, no doubt.
Oh, absolutely.
In the US of A and doing things together there. I think just one piece of parting sort of an invitation is invite yourself into the world of curiosity. Invite yourself to ask just slightly different questions about your reality. Not who's to blame or whose turn is it or where does the responsibility lie. Start asking the question, which is, how much more is there to experience where I am right now? How much more can I take in? How much more love can I take in? How much more abundance? How much more presence? How much more peace can I take in? Can I observe right now, right where I am? Because if you ask that question, and when you ask that question and you lean into that, then you will see through new eyes. You will start to see the glimpses that have always existed. That what you want wants you, that what you desire is already fulfilled. It already exists in the field of potential. Just ask that question. How much more is there to see? And how much more am I open to receiving through a new set of eyes? Yeah. And see where it takes you.
Beautifully said. And for those of you who may be on the path of Matthew's upcoming Infinity Tour, may those questions lead you to connect with Matthew and others as you learn about some of the upcoming events that he's doing. You can also, again, join him virtually through social media platforms. And with that said, Matthew, again, thank you for being a part of the New Earth Leaders podcast. As always, it is a real, true honor. And I'm infinitely grateful to be friends, to collaborate with you, and just to witness your energy and essence and presence in the way you share things. So thank you again.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Love it.
And with that being said, on behalf of Matthew, I want to personally thank every one of you who journeyed with us on this episode and for being a part of the New Earth Leaders podcast. This is the first of the ongoing guest interviews. For those of you who have not had an opportunity to check out the solo episodes that started the podcast, you can go and check them out. The links are in the descriptions and details. And we have some incredible upcoming guests that are going to be a part of the New Earth Leaders podcast. In the meantime, I want to invite each and every one of you to look within and to begin consciously embodying self-love, self-empowerment, and self-governance. And if you're wondering how to do that, well, this is the podcast that will show you how. And as you're doing this, I can assure you, you are not alone, and that the world needs more New Earth leaders and more embodied mystics now than ever before. So again, thank you for journeying with Matthew and myself on this episode. And we are sending you, your families, and your creations lots of love, gratitude, support, and prosperous blessings. Take care, and I look forward to having you join me on the next episode of New Earth Leaders.
Well, there you have it. The end of part 2 and the end of this season of the High Performance Consciousness podcast. It has been my honor to serve you and journey with you over the last 77 episodes. I hope you've got lots of value, and using the information I share with you in each and every episode, link together your own beautiful divine blueprint for creating the life you desire. Most importantly, living right here now, expressing yourself, your desires as already fulfilled in this now moment. Practice, practice, practice. Lean in, take lots of notes, lots of information, go back over and re-listen to your favorite episodes. And I look forward to announcing season 2 after my trip and tour, the Infinity Tour of the USA, which is coming up very, very soon. So once again, thank you for your encouragement, your participation, your interest, and most importantly, thank you for showing up and being who you really are in the world. So from me here to wherever you are in the cosmos, remember always to dream a better dream. I'll see you in the field.